Welcome into another episode of Mood Swings with Liv Moods, presented by Landmark Lincoln. As always, shout out to our friends over at Landmark Lincoln off of Bellevue and Broadway. Make sure you head to their location to figure out why they have been the #1 Lincoln dealer in Colorado for as long as they have. I'm the proud new owner of a 2025 Lincoln Nautilus. Could not love my car more, so make sure you head to their location to check them out and potentially join the Landmark Lincoln family. Okay, let's get into the show, you guys. As you can see, I've got my Denver Broncos stuff on because yes, I am still proud to be a Denver Bronco. This is the first time since September that we are not here on a Victory Monday celebrating all things happiness. No, the streak has ended. The 11-game win streak for the Denver Broncos has ended after a pretty tough loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team who is hot at the right time. They're a good football team. They've got a lot of momentum. There's no denying that the Jacksonville Jaguars could be a threat and are playing really excellent football. So it was a loss at the end of the day, and I've seen a lot of Broncos country members complaining about the refs, feeling like that was the reason we lost, and I just want to stop you there first and foremost. I want to have a lot of different conversations today about the Broncos. This is going to be a Broncos-heavy episode, mostly focusing on that game and kind of what the playoff picture looks like. What do the next 2 games look like for this Broncos team? All of that, yada, yada, yada. That being said, we're going to start with, something that I think we should all hear to maybe give ourselves a little peace of mind and maybe feel a little bit better about the situation. I do believe that this loss was a blessing in disguise. Yes. Not all losses are bad losses. We're going to get into that. I'm going to deep dive into that in just a moment. But first, I want to address the haters. And I know you're probably like, Liv, give it up. Why are you always addressing these people? Because they need to be addressed. And some people are scared to talk to the haters. I'm not. I feed on it. I love it. So this one's for the haters. Imagine having to wait 13 weeks for your I told you so moment. Guys, I don't know how else to tell you this. 13 weeks, 11-game win streak. You had to wait for 13 weeks and an 11-game win streak later to think for a second that you finally have your I told you so or I was right about the Denver Broncos moment. And the reality is, how right are you really, though? How right are you really? Because alongside the Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks, the Denver Broncos still have the best record in the NFL at 12-3, So if this is what it took for you to feel good about feeling like the Broncos are overrated, feeling like, we're hyping them up too much, this is easily a first round exit, all of those things, you can still believe those things. That's your prerogative. But to wait 13 weeks for an I told you so moment, and the Broncos are still 12-3. They still lead the AFC West despite the Chargers kind of adding some pressure there. Despite the Chargers fans having a lot to say, this is still the best team in the AFC West. And even still, after the Patriots won, this is still the #1 seed in the AFC. So let's slow down. How right are you really, all things considered? I had haters so quick to get on their social media accounts to let me know. See, told you so about your Broncos. What exactly are you telling me? They're 12-3, still the best team in the AFC West, still the #1 seed despite a Patriots dub in the AFC. So what exactly are you telling me? Okay, so slow down, haters. Let's start there. Also, now we're going to go to the positives, which is I do believe this was a blessing in disguise. Yes, not all losses are bad losses. I really, really believe that. The Jacksonville Jaguars are a good team who very simply put outplayed the Denver Broncos in almost every single way, period. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to talk about the officiating because BTW, the officiating sucks all the time. All the time. So if you're a member of Broncos country and you're feeling like that's the reason we lost, I urge you to look at the bigger picture here. The Denver Broncos got outplayed in almost every single way. Blaming the refs is not a great thing to do in this moment because the Broncos did not play a good game. I can acknowledge that there were bad calls, but I can also acknowledge there are always bad calls in every major sport. Don't even get me on the NBA. Don't even get me started on the NBA officials. They drive me insane. This game very simply lacked discipline. It did not lack skill. It lacked discipline. This was undisciplined football played by the Denver Broncos. And the other thing I want to say to the haters really quick is, if this one loss, their first loss since the month of September, it's almost January, their first loss since the month of September, if this makes you forget all about the 11 straight wins, you're just a certified hater, and nothing is going to please you about what this Denver Broncos team is doing. Absolutely nothing. You do not win 11 straight games by chance or by good luck only. You don't. This is a skilled football team that didn't show up prepared enough to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now in terms of momentum. You learn a lot about yourself when you lose. I would argue you're going to learn a whole lot more about yourself after this loss than you did winning 11 straight games. Now, I don't believe the Denver Broncos went into this game with a complacent mindset necessarily, but I do think there is an element of complacency that is attached with 11 straight wins, naturally. Not because the Denver Broncos didn't feel threatened by the Jacksonville Jaguars, not because the Denver Broncos got cocky and arrogant and they started to just, take their foot off the gas, but I do think naturally when you win 11 straight football games, complacency will be attached to that. And we might have saw a little bit of that versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like I said, you learn a lot about yourself when you lose. This defense, who I will still consider an elite level defense, an elite championship level defense, gave up 34 points to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Very out of character for this squad, considering how well they've played all season long, right? And I really hope there's a lot of things to learn from this game. But as fans, I really hope we got to see on full display, or we at least acknowledged the importance and the value of Brandon Jones. I'm going to take a second and talk about Brandon Jones. The secondary looked confused. They were visibly off. Brandon Jones was severely missed in that game versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. He has played a very crucial role for this Broncos team this season. Huge loss losing Brandon Jones at this stage of the season. Massive. And I'm not going to talk about it for too long because it devastates me. Genuinely to my core. But you do get to see on full display just how much Brandon Jones contributed to this Denver Broncos defense. Huge. He was a huge add. Broncos country, losing Justin Simmons felt like, you've got those players, you just love them. You love them, you want to see them stay in Denver. We didn't talk enough about getting Brandon Jones and what that would look like, because I think maybe a lot of people didn't necessarily know what it would look like. But last night proved exactly what it looked like having Brandon Jones, because the secondary was visibly off. Very, very off. So the value that Brandon Jones brings was on full display. Devastating loss there, not having Brandon Jones. There were missed tackles. There were dropped passes. There were turnovers. Like I said, this was undisciplined football that can very easily be learned from, which is why I called this loss a blessing in disguise. And I believe that it is a blessing in disguise. The Broncos have proven through many fourth quarters this season that they know how to bounce back. If there is one team that knows how to bounce back, it is the Denver Broncos, baby. Okay? They could not show up for 3 quarters in a football game and then bounce back in the fourth. They've done it many times before this season. So if there is any team that is good at bouncing back, that I trust to bounce back, it's the Denver Broncos. They've been bouncing back and coming back in the fourth quarter all season long. And you think this loss is going to be any different? Nick Bonitto stood in the locker room and said, I played ass today. They're not satisfied. PS2 talked about, this was a reality check. Of course. These Broncos have been able to forget and move on all season, whether it's through 3 quarters of football or it's after an ugly win or it's after a 1-2 season start. Their ability to move on and focus on what's ahead has kind of been one of their strong suits, one of their secret weapons this season. This loss will be no different. I actually had my doubts about the Denver Broncos riding into the playoffs on a win streak. I didn't feel great about that, guys. I didn't. Because I think you learn a lot about yourself when you lose. This is an opportunity for this group to regroup, adjust, and get better. You don't learn a whole lot when you keep being successful, right? It's like, okay, whatever we were doing was working. We also know Sean Payton is exceptionally stubborn. So even if the wins were ugly, they were still wins. They were still wins in Sean Payton's book, so whatever we're doing is working, when in reality, there have been a lot of vulnerabilities in this Broncos team, despite their 12-3 record, that people have kind of been like, I don't know, is this going to work in the playoffs? Now you've lost, and you know how quickly things can go wrong, despite being, a team that's got some of the most momentum out there. 11 straight wins. Despite all that, you got to kind of see firsthand versus the Jacksonville Jaguars that you can be beat. You're beatable. Now the league has seen it. Dang, those Broncos, man, they did not play a perfect 4 quarters, but they keep winning. Now the league can see you're beatable. So this is an opportunity to learn and to grow. That's what this is. An opportunity to learn and to grow. And I believe that is exactly what this Broncos team will do. They're going to regroup. They're going to recenter. They're on to the next. That's how this works. That's what they've done every football game this season. Every single one. Okay. Regrouping and recenter is just about the only option if this Broncos team wants to stay atop of the AFC West, make a deep playoff run, you name it. Especially with new injuries to Pat Bryant and Dre Greenlaw. Let's talk about the Pat Bryant one. First and foremost, thank you, Jesus, that he is okay. He was moving his extremities. It was a very scary injury. You could just feel through the TV screen. I wasn't at the game, but you could feel through the TV screen the amount of anxiety that these players were feeling watching him lie there. He was moving his extremities, which is an amazing, amazing thing. And he was released from the hospital with a concussion. Last night, he was released from the hospital with a concussion. You obviously hate that he's concussed, but you also know that in the game of football, that could have been a whole lot worse, and I'm just thankful that it wasn't. That being said, if you pay attention to Bo Nix at all, you know his heart, okay? So I just want to say, I don't think that taking to Twitter while Pat Bryant is still lying on the field to drag Bo Nix for the hospital ball that he threw is necessary or frankly appropriately timed. I get it. And trust me, Bo gets it. Bo took full responsibility for the pass that injured Pat Bryant. And I knew he would. Bo took full responsibility for that. I just don't know if it's in great taste for us to be jumping straight to social media platforms to drag Bo Nix for something that I can guarantee you he was already dragging himself for. Let's also keep in mind, Bo Nix is in his 2nd year. There's a lot to learn. He took accountability, and I guarantee you he moves a little bit more carefully because he now knows not only does he lead this team and lead this offense, but he can also be responsible for the safety of his players. You don't think he cares about that? Then you don't know Bo Nix. Bo Nix's heart is on full display at all times. So I just, again, we all saw the pass. Bo Nix threw the pass. He's aware of what the pass looked like. He's now fully aware he should not have thrown it. But he did, okay? And I just don't think it's in great taste to be immediately jumping to, how horrible Bo Nix is for throwing a hospital ball. Many quarterbacks in this league have done it. It's a learning lesson, and it's a tough one. And thank you, Jesus, that Pat Bryant is okay. But while Pat Bryant is still laying on the field getting medical attention, might not be the best time to run to your Twitter account and get your Twitter fingers going and start talking about how, it's all Bo Nix's fault. He knows he's responsible. He took full accountability for it. Let's also talk a little bit about Dre Greenlaw, who played 71% of the snaps in that game. And then with just around 2 minutes remaining, he's grabbing his hamstring and he's limping off the field. Hate to see it. It is probably in the Denver Broncos' best possible interest to rest him until the playoffs. If you can get by, if Vance Joseph can make the proper adjustments to get this defense back on track, God willing, versus a third-string quarterback next week, okay, it's probably in the Broncos' best interest to rest Dre Greenlaw the remainder of the season, regardless of how he feels, okay? Because these guys, they're competitive. They just want to play. But regardless of how he feels, it may be in the best interest of the Denver Broncos to rest him because he's a guy you definitely want available during the playoffs. Absolutely, without a doubt. There's a potential he could get 3 weeks of rest. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed for those 3 weeks being enough for whatever he did to his hamstring last night, late in that game. Let's talk about the remaining schedule. Like I said, third-string quarterback next week versus the Kansas City Chiefs on the road. The Chiefs who really have nothing to play for. This is going to be the perfect opportunity, in my opinion, for this Broncos team to polish themselves and refine themselves. Like I said, you don't win 11 straight games by luck or by chance. You don't. This Broncos team is good. Anyone saying this Broncos team is not good is simply a certified hater. And if you waited 13 weeks so that you could have your little "I told you so" moment, how embarrassing for you. You had to wait 11 straight wins. You had to wait 13 weeks to be right about the Denver Broncos. That is so embarrassing. Because what exactly are you right about? They're 12-3. And despite the Patriots winning, because immediately after that game, all I heard from was there were two groups of people I heard from, Chargers fans and Patriots fans. And Patriots fans were really quick in the DMs and in the mentions to talk about the Broncos losing. And even with a win, Patriots fans, the Broncos are still the number one team in the AFC. So what exactly are you right about, guys? Okay. This Broncos team is good. One loss does not change that. And I think it's a really good thing they lost ahead of the playoffs. I think it's a really good thing they lost because a game next week versus the Kansas City Chiefs, who have nothing to play for and have a third-string quarterback running their offense, is the perfect opportunity to polish and refine, right? To get back on track. And I know you could say, well, they need to be against a tough team, to really see what they're about. They should win next week. Even if they play as bad as they played against the Jaguars, they should still beat the Chiefs next week. Sure. But this is why the Broncos have stayed good. They don't worry about anyone else. It's about team growth, team wins, right? So if they can polish and refine and learn from this last game, apply that in a game that, doesn't have a whole lot of meaning to the Chiefs, should be an easy win for the Denver Broncos, apply it there, polish and refine, and then head back on home and secure the AFC West versus the Chargers, you're kind of sitting in a good spot. So let's talk about the Chargers game. Final home game of the season versus the Chargers. And at this stage, the Chargers, who are 11-4, are kind of creeping up on the Denver Broncos in terms of the AFC West. They are creeping up. They are. But, it would be Liv Moods has to address the haters yet again, of course. So let me quickly chat with the Chargers haters, the Chargers fans that are also Broncos haters simultaneously for a second, because you guys were awfully loud last night. I'm just going to remind you of this quickly. Because here's the deal. I can take it. You guys dish it out to me all the time. I just sit back and I'm like, yep, I've got a show tomorrow. Let me write this rundown real quick and then I'll get back to you. Okay? So this is me getting back to you, Chargers fans, because you were loud last night. Slow down. And let me say this. You have not yet won the division. Okay? You could, but you haven't yet. And while you were so graciously reminding me of the final score of the Jaguars-Broncos game that I watched in its entirety, so I knew the score, but I let you have your moment. While you so graciously reminded me of that final score, you kind of forgot about 2 weeks ago with your own squad, who allowed one more point to that exact same team in the Jacksonville Jaguars than my Broncos did, and you couldn't even score a touchdown versus the Jacksonville Jaguars just 2 short weeks ago. So again, I say, I think you've got enough going on over there to worry about than to be stressing about my Broncos win streak, first loss since September. You had a lot to say. You got a little loud for my liking, a little arrogant even, and you haven't won the division yet. This Denver Broncos team has already clinched a playoff berth. They are still the best team in the AFC West. They are still the best team in the AFC. They're the number 1 seed in the AFC. Yes, it's true. So again, enjoy the L. You were having fun with it. Go for it. But I would just say, focus on what you've got going on over there, because when you just 2 short weeks ago played the Jacksonville Jaguars, it actually looked worse on your squad than it did on mine just yesterday. So keep that in mind. And also, stay focused, stay locked in, because the Houston Texans defense is not one to be messed with. They're famished and they're hungry for a Herbert combo meal. That's what I heard. That's the rumor through the grapevine. Job is not done yet, Chargers fans. So before you get too loud, I would turn that volume down just a smidge. That's all I'm saying. Season's not over. Job's not done. The Chargers still need to win next weekend, right? I'm going to tell you right now, the Broncos must win outright, period. Just win outright so that you've got the AFC West. Win outright, please. It's in your best interest to do so. But the Chargers certainly, the bragging rights versus the Jaguars is not really there for the Broncos or the Chargers. Had we been playing another team, I could understand getting real loud with me last night. But you just played this team 2 weeks ago and you looked worse than the Broncos did. So remain focused. That's all I'm going to say. Really quickly, as you guys know, this show is presented by Landmark Lincoln, and Landmark Lincoln is doing something very special this holiday season. So let's take a look at what that is.
At Landmark Lincoln, we've been serving Colorado families for generations. But what matters most is giving back.
This November and December, $250 from every car sold will go towards St. Jude Children's Research Hospital.
Together, we can find cures for childhood cancer.
One car, one family, one cure at a time.
Let's drive hope forward, Colorado.
Every mile matters. The AFC is still wide open. Despite the Broncos still being the number 1 seed, the Patriots just got a win last night versus the Baltimore Ravens. Can we talk about the Baltimore Ravens for half a second? What is it going to take for Lamar Jackson to win a Super Bowl? I'm not sure I can handle this heartbreak any longer. Answer to my own question is likely a new coach. Is it time for is it time for the Baltimore Ravens to say bye-bye to Harbaugh? It might be, guys. Sad, but it's the truth. I mean, it is just starting to feel like you've gotten under this coaching and coupled with Lamar Jackson, you've gotten everything out of this squad that you're possibly going to get. You are wringing out a dry sponge. So, might be time to move on from it might be time to move on from Harbaugh. It just might. It just might. Because it is not working. It's just not working. And Lamar Jackson, and very interestingly, I was watching that game and I was like, whew, okay, another injury to Lamar Jackson. I believe it was his back. And I don't know the severity of the back injury, but I do believe that there's certain injury. We've seen quarterbacks play through broken hands, broken feet, like they've got flesh hanging down. They're still playing, blood's dripping in their eye. They're still playing. I'm starting to believe, my heart believes Lamar just needs to get his body right. He's just injury prone right now, guys. That's all it is. My brain is telling me he is done. He's over it. He could push through some of these injuries, but he doesn't want to. He's over it. Is there a world where Lamar Jackson is kind of getting over the situation that is the Baltimore Ravens? Feels like maybe. Feels like possibly. So I don't want to believe it because at this point, maybe, to answer my first question, what's it going to take for Lamar Jackson to win a Super Bowl? Maybe it's that he's not with Baltimore anymore. Oh my gosh, never thought I'd say it, but it's the truth. So the AFC is pretty open here. You've got the Broncos as the number 1 seed. You've got the Patriots behind them, okay? And then the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are now 11-4. And really making a name for themselves at this point in time. The Steelers, who I predicted preseason would not make the playoffs, are having a really good time considering the Ravens keep losing. The Bengals have been a disaster all season long, and the Browns are the Browns. The Chargers currently sitting at the 5 seed, wild card 11-4. The Bills also a wild card 11-4, and then the Texans at 10-5. Now here's the deal: the Texans really stinking need a win versus the Chargers this upcoming weekend. So that's the other aspect of the Chargers, fans getting a little too comfortable and a little too cocky here, is that both of these teams need a win. So it's not going to be easy, especially considering that the Houston Texans have a pretty elite defense that has won them some football games from time to time. Now, what's the offense going to give you? That is an impossible question to answer. And the Texans will be on the road, but we know home field advantage in SoFi is kind of non-existent. So this really is a valuable game for both of these squads. They're both going to be giving it their all, okay? And then lurking in the AFC, you've got the Colts and the Ravens. Ravens are 7-8, Colts are 8-6. So the AFC, 12-3 Broncos at 1, 12-3 Patriots at 2, and then 11-4, 11-4, 11-4, 10-5, 9-6. It's really going to be an interesting playoff picture when it's all said and done. And the NFC, mixed up all over again, right? You've got the Seattle Seahawks now at the 1 seed. The Rams just last week were the 1 seed, but losing to the Seahawks has now pushed them into a wild card spot. Yes, the Chicago Bears 2 weeks ago were the 1 seed. 1 loss, they dropped to the 7 seed. The Rams were the 1 seed just last week. 1 loss to the Seattle Seahawks. They dropped to the 5 seed. The Seahawks are now the 1 seed. The NFC could look completely different by the end of the season. But right now, you've got the Seahawks at 1. You've got the Chicago Bears, who have clinched a playoff berth alongside the Seahawks at 2. The Eagles have clinched the NFC East at 3. Then you've got the Panthers, 8-7 right now. As your guys' those are the division leaders that we've got. The wild card is the Rams, the 49ers, and the Green Bay Packers. And then in the hunt, is the Detroit Lions and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Detroit Lions just experienced an L to the Steelers. Really needed them to win that game. They did not. So I said it a few weeks ago. The Super Bowl is wide open. There is no, and I don't care what you say, you can fight me on it. You could pretend there is, but there's not. There is no clear favorite to win the Super Bowl right now. Not at all. Whatsoever. So it's interesting. It's a very interesting dynamic that we've got going on in terms of what this playoff picture could look like. It could look completely differently in 2 weeks when the regular season has come to an end. There's a chance the Rams still win their division. If they win out and the Seahawks start losing, they could win their division. Things could look completely differently a week from now, even 2 weeks from now. Only time will tell. Really quickly, Brandon Ayuk, the things going on there with Brandon Ayuk, a little troubling, I would say. Shanahan had mentioned, haven't seen him in months. That's what we heard. That was the last thing that we heard, was that he hasn't seen him in months. And then he posts a video of himself driving excessively fast past the stadium, filming it. That seems very intentional, right? That he was driving past the stadium as he's filming, driving really, really fast in his nice car. Here's the deal. There is a really fine line in this league. These players make a lot of money and they deserve it, right? They put their bodies through a lot. They train really, really hard. This is their job. They rack in millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars for the NFL. They deserve their check. But with that, I think we've maybe put a little too much power into the hands of these athletes. You put power and money in the hands of these athletes at such a young age that I think sometimes the idea of this being their job gets a little jaded, because it's more than that, really. It's a lifestyle that these guys are living. They're traveling everywhere. They're missing holidays with their families. They have to completely alter their lives around this. You know, for a lot of the people in society, they can work and then clock out and move on. These athletes have a very different situation. Their job consumes them. It's their entire personality. It almost has to be. So if you're not even getting Brandon Ayuk to show up right now, when he's almost like, I don't want to say mocking, but it certainly feels that way, the last franchise that he was playing for, how marketable is he? How much stock does he have, right? He was dealing with injuries. We know what he can be when he's in his prime. There's no denying he's not a skilled and talented player. But what does it look like for Brandon Ayuk? What kind of image is he creating right now? And how attractive is he to other teams? Are we watching a little bit of a downfall right now in terms of his career? I really hope not. But maybe. Okay, guys, that kind of does it for the show. I really wanted to spend a lot of the time today talking about the Denver Broncos. Obviously, we're not thrilled with this, right? We're not happy with the L, but the L, in my opinion, is a blessing in disguise. This is the perfect opportunity for the Denver Broncos to take a look in the mirror and say, okay, we're not unfamiliar with a bounce back. Ask the fourth quarter. She knows. She's known all season. We're not unfamiliar with being in the trenches, having things not go our way and having to figure it out. So this is the perfect opportunity to kind of reignite that flame a little bit, lock in, get focused, regroup, polish up ahead of the playoffs, because you can't lose in the playoffs. So it's better to lose now. And to the haters out there that were waiting 13 weeks. Oh my gosh, how embarrassing. I keep saying it, but it's so embarrassing. To the haters that waited 13 weeks, they had to wait 11 straight victories to be right about the Broncos, to have their little I told you so moment. Now it's my turn. I told you so. Here's what I'm telling you so right now. We're still 12-3. Still number one in the AFC. Still the best team in the AFC West. So, I'm just saying, what exactly are you telling me? You know? But it's good. It's good for this Broncos team to lose. It's good for them to see that they can be beat and just how easily things cannot go their way if they don't show up. Like I said, you win 11 straight games, naturally complacency is attached to that. I don't think the Broncos got complacent necessarily. I think that complacency is just a part of riding that adrenaline wave a little bit. So this is good. This is a reality check. And we're still 12-3, guys. Let's all just namaste in our lane and let the Denver Broncos do what they do best, win football games. They've been doing it all season long, okay? And that does not happen by chance, winning 11 straight NFL games. This is the highest level of football, okay? Strength of schedule, throw it out the window, zip it. That was based on predictions before the season started. It used to be scary to have the Ravens and the Chiefs on your schedule. This season, not so much. Okay, so strength of schedule, boo, I don't care. That's irrelevant. This is the highest level of football, and the Broncos found ways to win 11 straight times. That's the conversation ender right there. That's the period at the end of the sentence. They know how to win. This is exactly what this Broncos team needed. And they will be just fine. 12-3. Can't be mad. You live and you learn a lot about yourself when you lose. You learn more about yourself when you lose than when you ride 11 straight victories. I can tell you that right now. So, Broncos country, we're going to be okay. And so are the Denver Broncos. Haters, enjoy your little I told you so moment. It'll be over next week. Okay. Actually, it'll be over on Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, hater. Anyway, that does it for another episode of Mood Swings with Liv Moods. Thank you for joining me. So much love to you all. Happy holidays to everyone out there. Go Broncos as always. We will see you for the next episode of Mood Swings. I'm Liv Moods signing off for now. And as always, this has been presented by Landmark Lincoln. See ya.